Okay. So that's day 1 of the trial. Day 2 of the trial, you're like, I have my pool. And I'm like, put her in your pool.
Mm-hmm.
See how she does against your selection.
Mm-hmm.
I think the coach needs to be open to that because it's, if you value my views as a football coach, you need to say, hey, like, yeah, all right, maybe she does have some. At least give her a fair, open, but you got to lose back to the bias. You can't be like, I'm shut off. You know what I mean? Be open to it because maybe that player will surprise you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So call it stubbornness or biased, but whatever. It's all the same to me. But yeah, I think because it takes an army. If you look at the professional level, it's not just Arteta. It's not just Guardiola that's doing everything. They got full. It's not Hansi Flick. I'm bringing him into this one because what he did for Barcelona, but it's a whole team of coaches and staff and all of this that help the players get to the vision of what the head coach wants. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to take away this is the only way I see the team.
Yeah. So just while you were talking there, I agree 100%. And I found myself with another question. When we're talking about bias, when we're selecting a team for our season, do we sometimes maybe look at the opponent and what the opponent's strengths are? And does that impact the decisions we make? And I'll give an example. Man, that team, their backline's really quick. We need someone quick up front that can help us get past that, because we've been able to dominate them in terms of possession. We've been able to keep them in their half. We've used the ball really well. But when it comes to that final combination, they're always able to recover and stop us from getting that shot off. Or they're always able to get across and get a block in. We do a great job of working the ball from one side to the other side, to the free side, weak side. Players are going and attacking, but they can always recover because they're so fast. If we had someone who was quicker, we might be able to get to the ball earlier and get that shot away. So does this add to bias when we're involved in selection? You don't think, for example, a US national team is saying, we're going to be playing Germany in the group stage, and they are really strong on their free kicks. And so we are probably going to need to take some really tall, physically dominant centre backs for when we play that game.
So this is a great question. Because at let's say the top level, right, you have your whole group of 26 players, right? And you're taking your pool, and all of these players are quality, right?
Yeah.
But Thomas Mueller did something different on the pitch than Schweinsteiger, right? Messi does something different on the pitch than Di Maria, right? Or Harry Kane does something different than Ivan Toney, right?
Yeah. Fall over and get penalties.
Yeah. So we have these players that do something different. But yeah, as a top manager managing the top level, you have to use strategy. You have to use your strengths, right? And expose the weaknesses of the other team. So it's playing chess. It's not biased. It's saying, hey, I'm using Harry Kane because this is what he's good at and this is what they're weak at.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm using Lionel Messi because he does this for our team, which makes them weak.
Yeah.
Right.
But but let's reduce it down. Let's just say that we're now talking ECNL.
Yeah.
And we're saying, these are two teams that got to the, semi-final or beyond in the national championship.
Yep.
Within their age group. And they've, because of that, they're able to attract the better players from their state to come to their club.
Right.
And the team X lost to Team Y 2-0 in the final last year. And it was 2 set pieces. And the 2 set pieces were scored by the same player who is 4 inches taller than everybody else. And so she's able to get onto those headers. Does that coach of Team Y who lost in that final say, there's a good chance we meet them again, and I want to be ready for it this time, so I'm going to be looking to add somebody who's taller and more physically dominant as a centre back? And that could be, because I still have a roster of 18, let's say, that could mean that a really good technical player who's a 10 and who is a creative player who is technically, superior to most, but it won't necessarily be the starter on my team. That person then gets to miss out, because what I needed was somebody who maybe wasn't as good a football player, but was somebody who could serve a purpose when needed in a specific scenario.
So why not look on how you can prevent that scenario?
I mean, yeah, we can always say, let's not give away corners.
Yeah.
But it's that's really tough to kind of,
Yeah,
prevent.
everybody gives up corners, right? Or maybe why not dual mark that player that's like lethal off a corner? So you know what I mean? How do we prevent it? And yes, it starts higher up the field, but we still give away a corner, right? How do we defend the corner better? Because if you're allowed to recruit, you're gonna have to convince said person that you want is 5'11", 9, whatever, that is great out of there. You're gonna have to convince them to come to your club.
Yeah.
Or if you're not allowed to recruit, you're gonna have to hope that person lands on your doorstep. Either way is a pain in the ass, in my opinion. So prevention, work. Work at defending.
Right.
Work at.
You're saying there should be no bias. What we should be doing is looking to take the strongest players that we can for our group, and then looking at how we can develop those players.
Yeah.
To make sure they are in situations where they can be strong and they can do different things that will help to kind of mitigate any kind of. I mean, listen, I agree. I don't like the idea of, oh, you know what? You're really quick, so I'm going to take you. You're really tall, so yeah, I'm going to take you. I mean, listen, there are some areas of the field where, you're playing U15 and your goalkeeper is 5'2". I mean, it's going to be a problem, especially when most keepers in your division are going to be 5'9".
Right.
You don't want to have to set your team up in a way where you try to make sure the ball gets nowhere near the half, or near the edge of the box, because any shot that's got any height goes in. But that might just be a reality of the situation. You don't want to allow one person to come into the group based on their specific special attribute, as opposed to kind of finding a player who's as a blend is good across the board. So yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah, we don't have the ability, unless you're a professional club, you can't go out and buy, and you know what I mean. Yeah, recruiting is allowed, but you have to take what you have and adjust, develop, enhance. That's a great way to do it. That's a lovely word.
Yeah,
enhance.
Yeah, so we've said that we can do kind of standardized scoring, but standardized within the age group. we've said we can do multiple assessors as ways that we can kind of mitigate any kind of bias. I think those are two really good ones. Is there anything else that you can think of that we can do that will help us kind of remove bias? Is there maybe, I want to say, is there maybe kind of bias training we can do, or have our coaches do, or have coaches do?
No, because I honestly, I'm gonna kind of because that like the bias training. Here's the thing.
I mean, so let me finish my thought
Sure.
really quickly. And I'm in agreement with you, because I think bias training is more about kind of the racial, socioeconomic, those kinds of factors, as opposed to what somebody is like as a player, what type of player they are.
Right.
And so I'm in agreement. So what else can we kind of do? Is there another thing that we can do to help with that?
Yeah. Be raised right.
I mean, yeah.
Just be raised right. I don't like be a good human being. Like,
yeah.
I mean, just be a good human being. Not everybody has maybe your own financial background. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying generally. Maybe you came up hard, in a hard way, and maybe you earned your money, and that's great. So you know what it's like, right? And stuff like that. Maybe you were born into wealth. Maybe you were born into a multiracial family. Maybe you weren't, right? Like, but it just comes down to you don't want to be biased. Don't judge people for things you don't know about.
I think that's a really big key, and I think that's kind of where I'm thinking of leaning towards a third thing. And that third thing for me will be to not make snap decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 days of a tryout, so we don't have to have made every decision on every player by the end of that first day. Is there an argument that maybe we should be allowed to have training periods where you get to see a player over a consistent period of time, where you can then make a better judgment on a player, as opposed to having to make these snap judgments on a player who's going into an environment and is nervous, and so because they're nervous, their decision-making brain isn't quite full switched on, because they're in kind of fight or flight mode a little bit, and so you don't really get to see the best of that player in 2 days.
Yeah, I wish tryouts were like 4 days,
right?
5 days.
Yeah, because in Europe we don't do tryouts. You go for a trial, and the trial is 3 weeks or a month, or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And yes, like I wish, and that would be lovely to have in like youth soccer's like, okay, our state cup season end cycle stops, right? And all of a sudden it's literally boom, it's tryout week, and you're going, and then there's a tournament at the tail end of tryouts, and you're like, you can't even think. So why not end state cup? Let these kids take a week off and be children.
Mm-hmm.
And then go, okay, this is open, right? And I get that there's teams that are going to regionals that have to train, right? Okay, that's cool. But why not just say this for this month from mid-May, or give them a break, go to June. All of June, you have the ability to go and train with other clubs, other teams, and just go.
Yeah.
Right? I get clubs make money off of tryouts. You know what I mean? But can we mitigate that? Can we get rid of it? Right?
I mean, you could always charge for people to come to a training session. and
Yeah.
that allows you to maintain that level
Yeah.
of money for sure.
Or yeah, like a pass. Like, here's your trial, because I get there's insurance policies and stuff like that. So like you pay your $50 for this club, and you can come for the entire month.
Yeah, or even you pay the money to a club, but that gets you an OYSA in Oregon. Kind of pass where you can then go to any of those kind of clubs.
Exactly. This is great, because then the kid can be comfortable.
Yeah.
3-4 sessions. It's just you're coming to join practice, right?
Yeah.
And I get we have our own players. So if I have a player that's on the A team, and we have like 3-4 players coming to try out for the A team, right? Great. So they're a little like, all right, like I want to stay. I got to make sure I'm playing sharp. But they could be moved down, or maybe the new players like, no, we're going to offer you the B team spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so they have, this is a great environment. I actually wouldn't mind being on the B team here, because I want to get promoted instead of like this. What did I say earlier? First team or bust. Kind of mentality. Yeah. You know. Yes.
I mean, I can see so many problems with it. You know, but at the same time, I think if we're talking specifically about mitigating bias, where you're having to basically make snap judgments on players in short periods of time to try to decide whether this is going to be a player that can fit into your plans for the season, I think having a period where the players are free to move between clubs and go train and find an environment for them, but then you also get to see them a little bit more often ahead of that tryout.
Yeah,
is probably a nice idea.
Yeah. There could be tons of problems with it.
Way too much politics involved there.
Yeah. No, 100%. But all the clubs that have to be on the board and like, hey, this is open. They bought the OISA membership or whatever the heck we want to do. You know, they can float between clubs. There's no recruiting. I mean, it's your recruiting window, basically. You're trying to be
exactly
do
that.
the best you can as a coach. You want to, you know, like, etc. And you know, you want them to know what the team culture is like. You want them to know what your trainings or sessions are like. You want them to like know how we as coaches give input and stuff. And like, that's so hard. Like, this tryout window, I had like a couple players that I loved and I wanted them to be there, and I felt like a car salesman just trying to get myself out there.
I hate it.
And I'm like, listen, I'm a really good coach. This is how I coach. Like, this is what I'm talking. I'm like, I could help you. Like, and I'm like, you know, it just made me feel like I needed, you know, a shower. Yes. Because I just want the kid to like, I know what I could do for him, but I didn't want it. Like, I want them to make that decision. Like, get to know me.
Yeah. I hate hard sell. I really, you know, I mean, even when I'm looking at a player and I'm going, oh, man, like, I know I can see what you're capable of, because I think one of the things I look to first is potential. I always look to potential first. So I can see what you're capable of, and I feel like in the right environment, you can definitely, you know, achieve some big things. And then you're looking at the environment that they're coming from, and you're going, that environment isn't going to challenge you enough.
Yeah.
And so while what I'd like to say is, you know, listen, it's your decision, and, you know, there's no pressure. You know, you're also thinking, if you would just come and see the environment and see what it's like to train with these kind of top players, you'll be able to see, you know, get a better indication of where you are in relation, and that could then be a catalyst to you making a certain decision.
Right.
But that hard sale of, well, look, don't make a decision now, why don't you come out to training, is tough.
Yeah. I mean, it would take some great minds to sit down and get it going, but trial periods are way better than a 3-hour window.
Oh God. So
you know, like, it's like, hey, give it, you know, day one, we're training for an hour and a half. Cool. You're getting to know. You're just like, you're seeing. Yeah. It's just, dude, these poor kids, man.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I think that's. I think this is a good point to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Tell us where we can find you.
I'm on Twitter /X, Coach Cards PDP at Coach Cards with an S PDP. I'm there. I am on Instagram under. I have a handle. It's Match Day Technical Training. So you can find me there as well.
And I am PD Project Soccer on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can kind of watch this. So yeah, come leave us some comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you've been involved in any kind of bias. Tell us what you think coaches or what biases coaches you think coaches have. Don't name coaches though. You know, we don't want any kind of arguments or any fighting. It's all about love and development. Yeah, come interact.